we're entering our school year with our anti-racist commitment and making sure that we are being intentional about our systems and policies that are in place that impact our students. How has that work impacted your role as athletic director and the impact that athletics have on our students here at Baker?
Yeah, great question. So I think the biggest impact is that it allows me and other staff members to really prioritize the student as a holistic person. So not only do we feel like, or the students feel like, academics and test scores are this big deal as a college preparatory school, but now there's this equal, if not more, weight behind supporting them socially and emotionally, supporting them mentally, and really doing this kind of holistic approach to ensuring that not only are they doing well academically, but also have this well-rounded experience in the building.
And so you talked earlier about like different barriers that students faced, and so I wanted to kind of touch on like the practices or policies that were in place that kind of serve as barriers for like participation in athletics that you experienced in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, when I was a math teacher from 2017 until 2021, I was also an advisor for male identifying students those 4 years as well. And I started off my first year with an advisory of 33 gentlemen. And it was fun. It was rambunctious. You had a lot of personality in that room. And I learned so much from each and every one of them. And what I think was the most difficult for me during that time was seeing a lot of these students who were struggling with these policies that were in place with discipline and academics, find their space in the school and feel like it could be a home place for them. And I think of two students in particular that came throughout that time. One of them loved basketball. It was his passion. He talked about it all the time and related it to like that kind of being his reason, his why, and his greater, view for his future. And this kid was a straight A student, hard worker, just the kind of soul you could meet. And he unfortunately chose to transfer out his junior year, so 2020, just before the pandemic hit. And he pursued a school that was a little bit more robust in their athletic offerings and had less limitations or barriers to his entry. And the other student I think of hit a lot of those barriers. So he was a kid who was really working hard to figure himself out, just a classic high school student. And at Baker and Noble, we had what was called LaSalle, where as a math teacher, I was encouraged and enforced if a student missed a single problem, then that student was issued a LaSalle, which was essentially a homework detention. And so what that meant for a student like student B that I'm discussing now is, he would maybe think he was done with his homework and, maybe be rushing in the morning to catch it up because he was like, man, this bus ride, whatever. He gets there, goes to English class, maybe he missed one question, now he has LaSalle. And so what that meant for him was if he had a game that night, he's now in LaSalle from, let's say, 3:40 until 4:30, and he's missed the bus. So now he can't participate in that game. Or on a Friday, if they had practice, he was serving a detention potentially from earning demerits for, a wide variety of things that week, and now cannot practice. And we all know as, athletic directors and coaches, if you miss practice, you're missing this teamwork aspect, you're missing a lot of that buildup over the season as a sport. And from a student perspective, from our conversations, he really lost that motivation, to be a part of that team because he felt like that piece of his identity, he wasn't able to grow in the way that he was hoping and really felt kind of limited and identified strictly with his, I guess the best way to describe it is almost like a gap or what his wrongs were in the building. And so he curated this different identity for himself. And I think it was really difficult to see him kind of lose that passion for a sport based on the different limitations he had in the building here. And he also transferred out, like many students, didn't make it through the discipline policy, had so many detentions, he could not physically serve them before the next year. And so he left to a different school so that he could promote to the next grade level and be a junior at the school or a senior at the school that was not within, the same limitations that we had.
So those old policies, again, are currently not policies anymore. And now as the athletic director, you've had the opportunity to do the recruitment side. What's the pitch for Baker Athletics for a student athlete? What's the criteria to be a student athlete at Baker College Prep?
Absolutely. So happy that those policies are gone. I think it opens the door for students to find a place, beyond academics that makes school feel like a home place for them and like their soul is nurtured and their passions can be validated and affirmed. And so I think the pitch here is, find something that you're passionate about, whether it's drama falls within the Noble League right now, art falls within the Noble League, basketball, soccer, whatever it may be. And even though we are a small school, so Baker is only about 240 students. And so my pitch is, talk to your friends, see what there's a need or a desire for. And I can't always promise that we'll have a, official team immediately, but what we can promise is that we'll go out of our way to find an adult who will sponsor you. And whether it can be an official season or not, maybe we make it an enrichment where you're learning the rules and you're gaining that teamwork perspective. So the promise and I think the recruitment aspect is, tell us what you want. Like, let's solicit and amplify those voices. And we want this to be a place where you're excited to come and hold this high bar of excellence in academics, because we know that's important, and also offer you these things that make school feel like something and a place that you're so excited to be at all the time.
Mm-hmm. And so the policies that we currently have, and as we're rewriting them, refining them as we go throughout this journey of creating this anti-racist education, what opportunities have been available for students, opportunities to remove barriers, opportunities for greater participation in sports? What does that look like this year in the line to anti-racist work?
Absolutely. So as far as eligibility goes, students need to have passed and currently passed 2.5 credit hours, and then also either have a cumulative unweighted GPA of 2.3 or a current unweighted 2.3 GPA. And I think the key term is "or" there. What that allows is recognition that our students may have experienced some hardship at one point in time, but they have the opportunity to bounce back. And I think it opens the door, like student B that we mentioned before, like you go through something or you're having a time, and instead of eliminating this option for you to participate in something that gives you that joy at school and allows you to express yourself, now you have the chance to do that. And I think it also allows coaches to feel like they can holistically support the student in whatever barriers they might be experiencing at that time. So I think some of the barriers we've eliminated are these academic expectations without sacrificing that need for an excellent education, and not, drawing back on making sure that the students know they are a student first before they're an athlete as well. Also the medical barriers we talked about. So just being able to provide access and information to families, resources that allow them to get through these paperwork or the hoops that they might need to jump through in order to be able to participate in the things that they're excited about.
Considering the student athlete at Baker College Prep, how have you seen their attendance or their GPA or their level of connectedness to Baker in comparison to students who don't participate in athletics?
Yeah, great question. So from my experience, the students who do have an enrichment or do participate in sports, they're definitely more likely to be at school. Their attendance rates are higher. They've been proven from data and different surveys that we've collected over the past few years to be higher. Their GPAs also tend to be higher than those students who are not connected with something outside of school. And we've also seen that the retention of those students who have this buy-in to something beyond academics and greater than themselves, they tend to stick around and stay within the schools much longer. And so I think to tie it back to the advisory I mentioned earlier, that group of gentlemen that I helped mentor, when I think of a lot of those students who are no longer at the school with us now, I think that if they had the opportunity to participate in the new ARC lineup that Noble has offered, I think they would have been able to find that home place in this culture in the school that is really affirming of every part of them and allows them to express that joy and gives them something bigger to commit to. And I think they would have found a lot more success ultimately holistically. So not only in the athletic that they were excited about or in the club that they were excited about, but I think that support would have given them, the confidence and the drive to be all that they could be and really optimize that academic experience as well, because we've seen through data that the students who are able to participate in athletics really do thrive in schools.
Your student experience as a student athlete at Baker?
Being an athlete at Baker,